Okay, hopefully I can do this in 10 minutes, but if I can't, then I will start a part 2, because I think that explaining my journey from the beginning is probably going to give you guys the most information that you can possibly get, and my background, since it has been 2 years since we started trying. The first thing that happened when I was a teenager, first I'm 26 years old, I'll be 27 in February. My husband just turned 28 on the 2nd of December. Um, if I keep looking down, it's because I had to write all this stuff down. It's a lot of information. I was diagnosed with having problems with cysts, with fluid-filled cysts on the ovaries, even as a teenager, 16, 17. My doctor told me not to really worry about it. I think the biggest one I ever had was a little over 5 centimeters by 4.5 centimeters, which is a pretty decent size. It's about the size of a large lemon or even your fist. I had problems with that, so I'd been put on birth control on and off. I hated birth control. It always made me feel really, really sick. So I never really stayed on it long. In 2005, December 24th, was the day that changed my life for as long as I live it. I didn't know it yet, but I had an incurable bladder illness called IC, interstitial cystitis, and a sister illness along with it called pelvic floor dysfunction. It is basically inflammation of the bladder. The uterine lining is not, or not the uterine lining, the bladder lining is not the way it should be. You have a mucus-filled lining around all of your insides, and it's broken down. There's no cause. There's no cure. So they've basically got me on a bunch of medications, and I feel like a lab rat, and have since then. This happened on Christmas Eve, and it was in the hospital, severe pain, and I've lived with it every day since. For this reason, I can't work. That's why I chose to do theater, something that I love, so I can sing and act. But it's most commonly referred to as IC, interstitial cystitis. I haven't had a lot of luck with good doctors. I'm seeing a family care doctor that's been seeing me for a couple years now, who's been supplying me with medications, thank God, because without things like Detrol LA, Pyridium, Flexeril, there's a lot of these drugs that it's going to be hard knowing I got to get pregnant and probably get off of them. Keep going on. I met my husband in March of 2006. Well, we started dating in March 2006. We met about the December before that. He was dating a friend of mine who basically treated him like shit, and he ended up calling and talking to me. I was raped the month prior at age 22 in February on the 2nd, the morning of the 2nd, in a cemetery. The guy didn't even get indicted, and it's a shame that he's still out there somewhere, and there was so much evidence, and I even know his name. It changed me. It made me, instead of crawling a hole and crying about it, I became a stronger person. It changed my whole personality, my whole perspective on life, and even what I'd like to do with my life if I could go back into school, which would be criminal psychology. So Jeremy and I met we started dating the following month, the moment that I never ever would have thought I'd meet somebody that I was going to marry would have been a month after I got raped, but that happened, and I don't know why or how, but it did, and he's amazing. We got married in September on the 29th in 2007. That's when things kind of started rolling with this. Him and I had kind of just not used protection just to see if it would happen even before then. We knew we were going to be with each other. I'd never worked. I even took a couple pregnancy tests. Then we moved, and in January of 08, or January of 07, though, before we were married, we think that I had a possible miscarriage. I was on birth control. We were not trying to have a baby. everything that I called and told my doctor, she said that's what it sounded like. I don't know how far along I would have been. I'm gonna guess around 6 weeks. To this day, like I said, we still don't know. It's a possible miscarriage in January of 07, and then I said we were married September 29th, 2007. We decided to start having a baby in January of 2008. I'm not really sure what started it off, but I found pregnancy.org, where I belong to several boards, and found a lot of women that I love, and started charting on Fertility Friend at fertilityfriend.com. February, nothing special. March was the first time I tried OPKs, or ovulation prediction kits, I believe they're called. Got a positive the last day I took it. I believe it was CD18 for me at the time. That I was really late on my period a few days. We really thought I was pregnant on my third cycle, and it didn't happen. In April, unfortunately, from medications, from being sick, I got a yeast infection during my ovulation time because of the antibiotics. So we couldn't try. So April was a no-go, and that was month 4. After that, I think the March thing kind of freaked me out. We decided to take the summer off, and we had a break from May through July. We started trying to conceive at the end of August. I was really stubborn, thinking I knew my cycles really, really well. And we had sex, when we usually do. But I had fertile cervical mucus, CM. I had fertile CM around like CD20, 21, 22. And we didn't have sex, and I don't know why, but I'm pretty sure we didn't catch that egg. We probably had sex too early. I think it's the one cycle I did ovulate late, so that would explain some stuff. In September, I found the glory of OPKs and was ready to go back at this full swing, September 08. I bought a bunch of OPKs at babywitches.org. You can buy them in bulk for cheap. I even bought something to start ferning, which was actually quite amazing, and I even have pictures somehow zoomed in of this little tiny microscope, and was able to get what that was like. And started charting my my cervix position. In October, this was month 10 of trying to conceive. I bought a fertility monitor, which I ended up hating. It did nothing but cause me stress, and I should have thrown it away. I freaking hated it. I didn't like it. If you have OPKs, they're better. I'm telling you. November was when my temperatures were always kind of rocky, because I did temp. That's when I decided someone had talked to me about temping vaginally. I started doing it, and there was a big difference. It was much easier to tell, and it was like, yes, I think I've got this a little bit better now, so temping vaginally is definitely the way to go. December was when I had heard of the Instead Cup, and I'm not sure if many of you have heard of it, but it's a way for women. It's used as for our periods. It's a cup that collects the menstrual blood that you put up near your cervix. There's a lot of women that would use them. There can be semen in it, and you can insert it then, and it stays up by the cervix. We would use it after we had sex, and I would insert it and leave it in for hours. Hearing that this had happened, it kind of got into this like baby fad thing, and it was like, oh my god, it's been 12 months. What more can we possibly do? I didn't have insurance yet. January was when I was turned on to taking baby aspirin and soy isoflavones, because I was really worried about my uterine lining. I wasn't bleeding right, and that my cycles started to change around June is when I noticed it. I was bleeding less red blood, and that literally stayed like that until just several months ago. I do believe the metformin helped, but I think once I got on it, but I think it took about 5 months or so to really, really kick in. And before I go on about this baby aspirin and soy isoflavones, I'm going to stop this, make a part 2, and keep going.